Now, you might have heard that shorts are ruining everything. Brain rot's on the rise, social media's a contagion, and there's nothing you can do about it. But what if you just stopped? Well, 3 months ago, I uninstalled every social media app to try and cure my brain rot. Did it work? Am I some kind of saint now? Am I better than you because I didn't watch Skibbity Toilet? Well, to not string you along, it did definitely help, but not in the way that I expected. Like, I went to Japan, I found my passions again, and I got hopelessly addicted to video games. If you brain rot and doom scroll frequently, then you probably feel overwhelmed, distracted, and generally unhappy. Well, this was me. And to be honest, it was for a myriad of reasons. But social media wasn't helping. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through my day-to-day journey of deleting social media, what 2 months of detoxing even does to someone, and how it could potentially help or even hurt you, with all of the mistakes and really great things that I learned along the way. But there's just one problem. I'm a YouTuber. You're watching this video right now. So that means I quit my job for 2 months, and also that I failed? Now, after hearing all of this, I know what you're thinking. One of two camps. Number one, a social media detox won't work. It won't do anything. I'll either rebound and go back to using social media as much as before, or I'll just swap to a different vice. Remember that part. Or maybe you're in the detox camp that thinks shorts are the devil and brain rot is ruining society. So then obviously by quitting, I'll feel better, focus on my hobbies, not compare myself to others as much, enjoy life more, create more. Basically just an overall net improvement. But in reality, it was much more nuanced. Uninstalling everything just did one thing for me. It gave me mental space. But here's the other problem. It's up to you to choose what to do with that mental space. From playing video games for hours, pivoting to binging television, going on vacations, hanging out with your friends, you name it, you do it. But why does this matter to you? Well, you also probably think that sometimes you spend too much time on social media, or brain rotting, or doom scrolling. Have you ever uninstalled an app just to reinstall it later? Or maybe you don't doom scroll, but every time you look at Instagram, you see that one person that's living life just a little bit better than you, and you feel worse about yourself. Or maybe it just makes you put off a hobby that you'd really prefer to do. I'm no stranger to any of that. And before I share my story with you, I want you to ask yourself one thing, and you need to be brutally honest with yourself. Do you enjoy doom scrolling? Regardless of if you answered yes or no, you probably answered no. I want you to ask yourself why 5 times. Do you enjoy doom scrolling? No. Why? Well, I don't enjoy doom scrolling because it doesn't give me the time for my hobbies. Why? Because I spend 6 hours a day on Instagram. Why? Well, because every time I think about doing that one thing, I feel, you see what we're doing here? You just break it down into chunks to try to get to the source of the problem. Now, congratulations. You just practiced the 5 whys, which was popularized by Taiichi Ono at Toyota. I learned it in business school. It's very popular in pop psychology, but it is very helpful with investigating yourself and figuring out the root of problems. And before we care about a detox, I had to ask myself those 5 questions, just like you might have to as well if you want to follow along. You also need to ask yourself some other hard questions, like how much time do you spend? How much time do you want to be spending? How would you rather be spending that time? If you don't set any objectives or trackable metrics, just doing it for the sake of doing it and you're gonna rebound. And I know this is a bit long-winded. I know you're like, just get to the point. Well, we're laying the groundwork for the point. All of this is gonna come up later. So let's bring it back to why I took 2 months off. Now, if you don't know me, howdy hey, I'm Hipyo Tech. I make tech videos, keyboard videos, videos about water bottles for some reason. And I've been doing this non-stop for the last 4 years. No breaks. Literally no breaks. Even when I looked like I was taking a break, I was still working, still scrolling. I'm a textbook example of being terminally online, constantly reading Reddit, constantly scrolling Instagram, TikTok, always telling myself, I'm networking, I'm looking for the next great video idea, I'm connecting with my community. Here's the thing though, I genuinely loved it. And this is why I'm a bit of an extreme example as to what could go so right, but also so wrong. Social media validated me. I had a creative outlet that helped people. I was genuinely excited to get up every single day and share what I loved with the world. Like, how great is that? I could even pay my bills because of it. But things weren't perfect. I gave up on a lot of hobbies without a second thought. I stopped rock climbing. I stopped enjoying plants and terrariums as much as I just absolutely loved. I stopped connecting with my in-person community for my online one. You've probably felt this too, but it felt like time was slipping out of my control. So for me, being terminally online, doom scrolling, it was productive. It led to me fulfilling my dreams. So why would I ever want to stop that? Like, sure, I'm wasting time, but my time has never been better, right? And to be honest with you, I probably never would have stopped. Despite having waves of creative burnout like every other creator gets, sometimes you just don't want to make a video, and that's fine. But all great creatives know when to push through, and I was still the happiest I'd ever been, but every change has its catalyst. And this is a really vulnerable video to make, but I wanted to share my story with you guys so that other people who are also burnt out or overwhelmed, distracted from their lives, or just unhappy with how they spend their time could maybe get a grain of help. Because I do think this story can apply to everyone. Now, what's crazy about this is that I just stumbled into my social media break. It was never innately needed or sought out. And maybe that's why it worked so well for me. Now, don't worry. I'll get into this a little bit more throughout the video, but life got really overwhelming really quickly. And it was out of my control, so I just had to take a step back. Long story short, my girlfriend and I broke up after 4 years. I'm not gonna get into the details because you don't need to know that, even though I really wanna share. But let's just say it was the worst time of my life. It led to a lot of self-reflection. And you've probably felt that way after a big life change, because at its core, it's change, and change sparks things. It made me reflect, and it made me reflect that I loved YouTube. I love content creation. I love researching, and ultimately, I love doom scrolling. But I wasn't loving it in the same way that I used to, and you probably feel that way as well. There's so many things that I just wasn't making time for myself. Rock climbing, cooking, houseplants, various hobbies. In the words of Nir Eyal, who wrote Indistractable, I was serving the time waste. It wasn't serving me. So in late September, after getting a lot of support from friends, I made the decision to just take October off. Now, a lot of you that follow me probably noticed this and were like, where's Hipyo? I'm sad. I hope he didn't die. But I did this at the end of September. I had to cancel a ton of sponsorships. I burned bridges. But what's cool is that I was the one that did this. I was the one that made that decision. It wasn't some app making it for me. And if you take a social media detox, you're gonna need to be the one that makes that decision. I can't tell you to do it, even though I think a lot of you would benefit from it. Now, you might have noticed, my initial decision was to take October off, and we're gonna put a pin in that because I also took November off as well. Now, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist. I'm not gonna pretend that this is some magic guide. It's mostly just my story and how I think it could impact you. However, I do think my story can be really helpful to you. So if you made it this far already, let's just sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and a notebook as well. Day 1, full detox. Now, this is where we have to lay down a lot of barriers because taking the first step is always the hardest. So I need to make it as hard as possible to access any of my social media apps. Now, part of this was so that I gave myself space from work, but also so I gave myself some space in general. So I started by uninstalling TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, YouTube Studio, you name it. I even logged out of all of my accounts on desktop and deleted all of my passwords from my password manager so that I'd have to recover my accounts to get back in. Next, I even set my email notification to important only, and I would only check this once a week for emergencies, because honestly, it stressed me out to do anything less. I even probably shouldn't have done that though. Then I removed all the bookmarks on my browser bar and just tried to create barriers at every single angle of my life. Now, you at home can use apps like Stay Free, not sponsored, to kind of track how much time you're using on an app or even limit shorts. I didn't personally use it during my detox, but I've been using it after, and it's helped a lot. But the goal here is uninstall everything. And this is the beginning, and it's really hard, and it's the kind of thing that you can't do on a whim, because otherwise, you just reinstall the app. You really need to want it, and you really need a catalyst. Now, obviously, your catalyst doesn't have to be your girlfriend breaking up with you. In fact, I really hope it isn't. It could be something as simple as you asking yourself, why do I want to stop using social media? And you determine, hey, I'd really like to skateboard more. Now, I'm not perfect, and everyone has their one place that they kind of cheat a little bit with everything. And for me, that was watching YouTube. I treat it like my TV. I still want to respect my time, so I installed some guardrails. I installed apps that let me dumb it down and make it more boring, and I also forced a 1-hour timer plugin that made me a lot more conscious of how much I was watching YouTube. But there is an important caveat: no shorts. Now, I'm a shorts creator. I've dabbled in the brain rot. I do think it's really fun, and I like watching them, but I also know how addicting they can be and how absolutely useless they can be to most people. This was the hardest day, but it also felt really good, removing everything from my phone and my computer. Like I was finally taking control of my time rather than Mark Zuckerberg's greasy little tendrils grabbing my brain at every moment. But this was just the beginning. Day 2. Now, if I said this worked perfectly, I'd be lying. I soon discovered that I could watch YouTube on my TV, and then it didn't use any of my browsing limits. I also had a friend suggest a new game that I should try with all my free time: Legends of Runeterra. It's a card game, it's harmless. And here's where the problems with dopamine detox arise. At first, I just ended up funneling my time working and doom scrolling into video games and YouTube watching. But surely, it's gonna get better, right? Well, throughout the week, I had some breakthroughs. Despite watching a ton of YouTube and still playing a ton of Legends of Runeterra and other video games, I did have breakthroughs. I went on walks, I hung out with a friend, I cleaned my house. Having the distance from social media was still giving me extra time. I was just a little bit unaware of how to spend it. But ultimately, the first week can be summed up by one thing. I took the problem, which is that I don't respect my time by spending too much of it online, and I moved it to different things: that I don't respect my time by playing too much video games and watching YouTube. But the core of it was still there to fester, and I'm hoping that it gets easier and that I can find the focus that I actually care about. Week 2, I kind of want to go to Japan. Also, I got a bike. Now, I think I need a change in environment, or maybe I'm deflecting life's problems. It's been a week now. I haven't opened social media. I haven't looked at shorts. I haven't brain rotted. And I mean, I did have to tell my friends not to send me any memes on Discord, which was an important lesson of week 2: accountability. You really need to tell others what you're doing and ask for help, because your friends can be your biggest allies. Like, this isn't just some easy thing that you do because, I want to uninstall Instagram. But throughout the second week, I couldn't help but feel an intrusive thought creep in. One that you might have had as well. Japan, Japan, Japan. Now, like everyone, I've always wanted to go to Japan. I've never done it because of a million excuses. Oh, I don't have the time. Who's gonna take care of my cat? Maybe my houseplants are gonna die? But like, wait, what if I did it? I started to look at flights later in the month, and I started talking to friends to see who can maybe get their work off last minute to go with me. Now, I'm a YouTuber. I have too much free time. But maybe you might have those vacation days that you've never used. But you don't have to go to Japan. Let's put a pin in it. Because how's the detox going? Well, at this point, I really want to use apps. I really want to cover up that overwhelming feeling of boredom. It's more an innate monkey brain instinct to try and open my phone, look, oh, nope, nothing's there. I still play too many video games, but it feels like my choice rather than that I'm being forced by some devious algorithm. This is probably coping. But also, I want to make more music. I want to get back into climbing, and I'm still not doing that. Now, a friend, yeah, I have friends, suggested that I try cycling. So I went to a bike shop near me and I did a test ride of an e-bike. This was really fun. So I bought the e-bike the same day. I told my friend I want to ride 50 miles by the end of the year. Just as some lofty goal that's going to keep myself relatively accountable by telling someone else I'm going to do it. And that was the end of week 2. At this point, my life hasn't gotten significantly better, but I am noticing how bored I am. And I'm trying not to fill it just by doom scrolling or making a video that I'm gonna make for making a video's sake. But I'm gonna be honest, after 2 weeks, I was expecting to feel a lot better. And this is kind of hard to come to terms with. Week 3, I'm going to Japan. So my fixation from week 2 really expanded when I found incredibly cheap flights to Japan. Also, my best friend said that he could go with me. I bought the tickets. No hotels plan, no trip plan, but I'm going. This is really exciting and really terrifying. But it was also like a cloud was being lifted. I had a concrete goal: plan a trip to Japan and get ready to have fun. Just one problem: how do you do that without social media? Like nowadays, most people get their travel info from TikTok and Instagram. I was raw dogging it with an hour of YouTube per day and a lot of Google. I felt like a bit of a boomer. And I failed. This is the week that I reinstalled Reddit. I just wanted to see the Japan Reddit travel info. I just needed to see it. Then I started scrolling it for other stuff. Thankfully, this only lasted a couple of days because I found a post so stupid that it made me re-delete the app. But that was my first lapse. Crisis kind of averted, but I also realized I have friends and family that have been to Japan. I didn't really need to doom scroll just to find the best travel info or insights. I actually just had to call people that I care about and talk to them. A terrifying thought. But this helped a ton. My brother lived there for multiple years and was like, hey, let me give you all this amazing travel info, and here's where you should check out, and here's what's overrated. Now, all of you might not have a brother that's been to Japan for 2 years, but let's be honest, we all have a friend that's been to Japan now. And this was definitely a huge bit of excitement that's occupied me for most of week 3. Also, fun update. I went on bike rides. I realized there are so many great bike trails in Seattle, where I live, and I could just bike to beautiful parks, shops. I could just go along the waterfront or even visit friends on a bike. I cranked out 10 miles this week. Now, that's 10 out of 50. That's pretty good. Throughout the rest of the week, I primarily focus on planning my trip. So really not much self-improvement here, but I was distracted, and that was good. Out of boredom came something good. Weeks 4 through 5, I'm in Japan. So 2 weeks of just enjoying travel with my best friend. This was the best 2 weeks of the whole entire break. When traveling, it's insanely easy to just keep busy doing what I wanted to do without any stress to check social media or do any work. I wonder what my friends are up to right now. Doesn't matter, I'm in Japan. What about that one brand deal that you canceled and now they're really mad at you? It can wait, I'm in a different time zone. Why the hell would I go to Instagram Reels to get mad about some rage bait or some random Rizzler Costco chocolate chunk cookie garbage when I can sit in an onsen? This made me think though, what's gonna be my onsen when I head home? What's gonna be my Japan? Like, obviously this is just temporary. Getting the physical and mental distance away from doom scrolling meant that I could reflect about how it affected me. Now, how did I stay entertained when I wasn't out exploring Japan? Audiobooks. I watched some television with my best friend. It was Taskmaster. I love that show. It's important to note that distractions and diversions aren't your enemy here. I mean, especially for me, I used to love them. It's more about when it becomes your default or your only option over things you'd rather be doing. So I left Japan feeling refreshed and optimistic about my future, feeling kind of ready to get back to work. I got the distance that I needed. I got the mindset shift that I needed to give myself space to actually enjoy my hobbies again. I wanted to get back to making music. I wanted to get back into climbing. I wanted to get back into painting and making funny keyboard videos for you guys. And then, yeah, week 5.5, the spiral. So you remember when I mentioned that my break was only gonna last a month? Sometimes life has other plans. I got back from Japan, still jet lagged, but optimistic, and my partner and I broke up. Now, I'm being really vulnerable here, sharing that sometimes the worst things can really help us. But because of this, I had a long bit to go before I was gonna be okay. And it wasn't going to be easy. Getting that news, I wanted so badly to go to social media, get the validation from others. I just wanted to tell a million people that my heart was broken so that they could fix me. Not much different from back when I had no followers and got jealous of my friends who were going out every weekend and having fun without me. So the first month of my break was because I was overwhelmed with things. And the second month of my break is because I felt like I had no choice. But what I did have a choice of is how to spend it. Month 2, week 1. I played 30 hours of Call of Duty. Now, I could be really hard on myself here, but I'm not going to. I was really depressed. I played 30 hours of Call of Duty with my friends. It was probably the most fun I could have. But not just that. I also messaged my friends. I tried to leave the house once a day. I went to therapy. Okay, side note. I tried BetterHelp as a way to maybe make another video out of a bad situation. And dear God, it was so much worse than I expected. Maybe that's a follow-up video, but BetterHelp is legitimately terrible, but not a scam. I talked about my problems. I started climbing with my best friend twice a week, very reluctantly. And week 1 of month 2 was mostly a blur. I still didn't use social media, so boy was I detoxing, but that didn't make me feel any better. But I do think sharing this could be helpful for you guys because I was the most depressed I've ever been, and I was still able to give myself that space. So you definitely could too. Speaking of 2, month 2, week 2. I played 30 hours of Call of Duty. Woo! Again, I'm not gonna be hard on myself here. I needed it. I had literally nothing else to do other than be alone with my thoughts. So I kept trying to leave my house every day. I started biking a lot more. I actually hit 50 miles and it's mid-November. Yeah, I was doing that the last week. My friend was proud of me. That felt really cool. A real life friend that was proud of you rather than just a stranger on the internet. That's nice. I realized that filling my time with things that I wanted to do was significantly better than just trying to distract myself with doom scrolling and seeking validation online. The biking goal smashed that, so I said, I'll do 100 by the end of the year. And then I made my first goal in a while. I want to release an album in 6 months. But what does that even look like? How do I just go and release an album? That's the fun part. I just challenged myself there. For those of you that really don't know me, I also make music as Kadeli. It's sad music. And believe it or not, being incredibly sad makes it easier to write sad music. So the next thing I knew, I was journaling my thoughts and cranking out lyrics. Very sad lyrics that you guys are gonna hear and be like, dear God, are you okay, Hipyo? I'm okay now, but I wasn't then. And guess what? That's fine, because this whole thing was about getting control over my personal time and how I spent it, and I finally felt like I was starting to get that back. Month 2, week 3. This week, a really great friend drove 14 hours from California to Seattle to spend the week with me. He helped me get my life back on track. He helped keep me accountable to my own goals for self-improvement. I mean, even just doing things around the house, that was really nice. We climbed multiple times, we went on bike rides, we did chores. I even threw a friend's giving party and had 9 friends show up. That's cool. If I had spent all of my time idly scrolling or thinking about the next video that I needed to make when I didn't need to be thinking about that, then I wouldn't have had any motivation to do any of this. I would have just said, nah, I don't have the time. I really just need to focus on this next thing. And having that was nice. Now, don't get me wrong. I was still sad. I still crave social media. So when I started to feel like I wanted to get back to work, I got really conflicted. Like, when is the right time to get back to social media? When is it the right time to get back to work? If I wanted to do it, that means I should do it, right? So let's just see how it feels. So I filmed a video and I sent it off to my editor. We'll see how that goes next week. Month 2, week 4. Now, this was the last real week of my detox as I started to prep to heading back to making videos. Except I made a few big changes. A lot of this self-reflection on what sparked joy or not started to bleed over to other parts of my life. I quit League of Legends, a game that I had played non-stop since 2013. I stopped playing video games as much in general because I realized they weren't really making me that happy. And I started to prioritize in-person engagement with my friends. I realized that by writing it down. Going out every day is kind of nice, especially when you never leave your house because you work from home. Maybe you're at home listening to this and wondering, why was I doing all of these things if they didn't make me happy? And maybe you kind of see yourself in this story. What are you doing that doesn't make you happy? Or why are you doing that thing that every time you think about it, you're like, God, why did I do that? I could have been doing something else. That's an important thought to hold on to. And you have to dig a little bit deeper and ask yourself why and why and why again. Here's an example. I asked myself, why do I get mad playing League of Legends? And I was like, well, I get mad playing League of Legends because losing when it's out of my control is frustrating and makes me mad. Then I asked myself, well then why do you play League of Legends if it makes you mad? And I said, well, I like playing League of Legends because I like playing games with my friends. And then I asked, well then why do you play League of Legends with your friends when you can play a game that doesn't make you as mad? Or you could just hang out with them in person. And I was like, shit. Yeah, that's actually it. Maybe I shouldn't be playing League of Legends. And here's the thing, that's a really obvious train of thought to follow. But when you're covering up that train of thought and that really uncomfortable conversation with yourself by, let me just scroll Instagram. It's like putting that boss fight off that you really need to do to get that next upgrade because maybe I can just get my gear up a little bit before the boss. It would have been fun, but you're just putting it off. Just one more excuse, just one more delay because you're afraid. Also, when my friend was in town last week, I saw a cute little journal at a shop. I thought it would be nice to journal about things, so I bought it. And this week, I actually started writing down a daily goal in it just so that I could keep myself accountable, which I've stuck to even to this day, full month filled out. Now, that was at the end of November. So month 2 is over. It's time to get back to work. And obviously, I started doom scrolling as normal, right? Challenge done. I did 2 months. It's over. Well, some really interesting things happened as a consequence of taking that 2-month break. I did reinstall my apps. I logged back into all of my accounts, which really sucked. But I left some of my guardrails on. What did I change? And what went back to normal? First, Twitter and Reddit, they're gone. Those sites literally only exist to make you angry, at least with how their algorithms are right now. And I am very happy having them gone, especially Twitter. Second, I left notifications off. Now, I have to consciously open an app if I want to know what's going on, and people don't have a constant grip on my attention. And people aren't able to just pull me away from that one thing that I want to focus on. Third, for emails, I only check them for 1 hour twice a week. This was really terrifying at first. But get this, I'm not missing out on a million important things like I used to tell myself. If I answer my email twice a week, that's it. Life has been good. Oh, but what about that super important urgent email? Okay, that's fair. There are some that I flag as important and I do answer those importantly. But that's because I decided that they're important, not someone else. Fourth, I kept my YouTube timer on. Like, I do let myself watch YouTube for a little bit extra on the TV, but because it brings joy. I realized that even though watching YouTube brings me a lot of joy, there's other things in life that bring me joy. And it's easier for me to just limit that to a set amount of time. Here's the biggest change though, that stuck with me for the full month of being back to work, as I'm writing this at the end of December, but filming in January. Let's start with this. 7 minutes of average Instagram use daily. 3 to 5 minutes of average TikTok use daily. 0 minutes of shorts, reels, or TikTok content all month, other than the ones that I made, but that's because I thought they'd be fun to make. The change stuck despite going back to making videos. My brain just kind of rewired, and now I would much rather hang out with my friends in person, work on a personal project, write out a song, go to a farmer's market, or literally anything else than open Instagram. Like, I actually do feel a bit of dread opening it, which is nice. Like, it's really nice. Don't get me wrong. I don't think this is for everyone. And I think at some point I'll go back to scrolling social media with a purpose again. Because I used to scroll reels for terrarium inspiration, and then it turned into jealousy. Does everybody need to quit cold turkey? Does everybody need to detox? No. But if you feel like it's affecting you, could you benefit from asking what you'd rather be doing right now? That hobby that you tell yourself you have no extra time for, or the friend that you haven't texted in weeks? Like earlier, I thought about my grandma. So I called her and had an hour-long conversation, which was lovely. My grandma's not gonna be around for that much longer. I loved talking to her. That made me a lot happier than scrolling Instagram. And obviously, you call your grandma, that's better than looking at her on Instagram. But I just didn't think about that human connection before, which is maybe a bit robotic and bad. Social media isn't evil. And as much as I'd like to say that, oh, doing this made my life so much better, ultimately, it didn't. Detoxing didn't make my life better. I made my life better. Making videos brings me so much joy. Having a community brings me so much joy. It's just that when it becomes a tool to fill the void, then we need to rein it back in. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get back to the joy. For those of you that stuck with me for the 30+ minutes of this, thank you for listening to my story. I just really wanted to share it. Like anything, I just really want to share things that I care about. And if you do decide to follow in my footsteps and you find this helpful whatsoever, I hope at the end of your detox or whatever you're doing, you can let me know how it went via a comment. Or maybe get subscribed so that you can not get notifications when you delete all of social media. Because this was really new for me, and I did have a lot of fun writing this. I wrote 15 pages in a day. And I know you might want to share this with some friend that doom scrolls too much, or you might feel like they've lost control of their lives, but I just want to tell you, you're not going to change their mind. I'm not going to change their mind. The only one that's going to help them is themselves. That's the core of this video. But I hope that you're able to help yourself. Until next time. Yeah.